This is a message from the government of Bermuda.
There's a new generation of criminals who are targeting our seniors online. I've heard tragic stories about persons who sent money overseas to people who are pretending to be me. Please know that no government minister or anyone from the government will ask you to send money via Facebook or Instagram. If this happens, please report the profile and visit www.cybertips.bm for more information on how to keep yourself safe.
This is a message from the government of Bermuda.
Healthy people and healthy communities.
Oh man, no lights? Yo, it's a good thing I have this emergency kit. Got a flashlight.
Yeah?
Radio.
Yeah?
Water.
Yeah, whatever, man.
Non-perishable goods. A bucket, rope.
Whatever.
I even got batteries for the kids' games. Yo, I'm glad I planned ahead. How about you?
Yeah, man. I can stay here.
This message is brought to you by the Department of Health.
Good afternoon, Bermuda. Today, I'm joined by the Minister of Health, the Honorable Kim Wilson, the Minister of Tourism and Transport, the Honorable Zane De Silva, who is en route, the Minister of Finance, the Honorable Curtis Dickinson, who will give remarks. The Minister of National Security, the Honorable Wayne Keynes, is available to answer any questions from the media. We are also joined by the Acting CEO of the Bermuda Tourism Authority, Mr. Glenn Jones. It was because the aggressive testing that occurred during our containment phase to ensure that there were no missed cases in the community when positive cases were initially imported. It is a testament to the excellent work that we have done in the community and as a country that there is a low rate of positives, and this has nothing to do with testing protocols. Finally, I personally find it interesting that people would be questioning the pooling method which is in use by the Molecular Diagnostic Laboratory as a reason why the standards are not as high as they should be. When just this week, testimony was given to the United States Congress by none other than Dr. Anthony Fauci, stating that the USA may want to consider pooling to speed up their testing. Our own Dr. Weldon was 10 weeks ahead of the United States of America, and this protocol was already implemented in Bermuda. There are those who seek attention and validation by creating lies or by sharing them. There are those who unquestionably share whatever is forwarded to them without asking questions, engaging in critical thought, or even thinking about what their forwarding may mean to other persons. To those who are engaging in this type of behavior, I ask you to please stop. And yet beyond that, this latest set of malicious lies fits a pattern that so many young, educated, intelligent, and talented Bermudians face when they return home. It is unacceptable, intolerable, and offensive, and I cannot and will not let Dr. Weldon or any other young Bermudian who has put their life on hold to help their country be subjected to attacks and abuse of this nature, and no other Bermudian should be either. At a time when most of us have come together, those among us who seek to disrespect, denigrate, and destroy this young, outstanding, black, Bermudian, female doctor, or any other Bermudian serving their country should be ashamed of their actions and their outmoded beliefs. Bermuda has done well. People look at us and say, look how well Bermuda has done, because countless young Bermudians have risen to the occasion, from testing to technology to working on the front lines. We've innovated and shown ourselves to be an example for the world. And I urge all of us to dedicate more time and energy to building each other up instead of rushing to tear other Bermudians down. With that introduction, I'm happy to turn over the mic to the Minister of Health for an update on COVID-19 testing and other matters related to the Ministry of Health. Minister?
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, there were 273 test results received by the Ministry of Health, and none were positive for COVID-19. Bermuda has 146 total confirmed positive cases. As of today, we only have 2 active cases in Bermuda, of which 1 is currently hospitalized but not in critical care. A total of 135 persons have recovered, and the total deceased remains at 9. The average age of all of our confirmed positive cases is 60, and the age range of all of our positive cases is from 18 to 101 years. The source of all local cases is as follows. 42 are imported, 85 are local transmission with known contact, 16 are local transmission with an unknown contact, and 3 are under investigation. Bermuda's country status is local transmission, sporadic cases, and the 7-day average of our real-time reproduction number remains below 1. There are now over 9,000 persons registered on Health IQ. Well done, Bermuda. Keep it coming because we are nearly at our 10,000 mark, and that target will allow us to get to the green light on our indicators. We have been receiving a lot of questions regarding the saliva test. Those have arrived on island but are not ready for use just yet, as they need to go through the regular validation process, which requires testing for positive samples. Because we've only had 2 positive cases on island currently, we cannot complete the validation process. However, once this is done, we will be able to use it as part of our screening program. As you all know, today we received our first commercial flight from Toronto. Thanks to an incredible team of professionals from multiple government departments and agencies, we were well prepared and successfully landed and health screened all arriving passengers. We set up the new system very fast, and we are aware that there were some technical glitches with the online portal to apply for the travel authorizations. Nevertheless, we are working through those, and importantly, we were able to capture the information that we needed. It did disappoint me greatly to learn that at least 1 passenger from today's flight took it upon themselves to breach the obligatory quarantine and visited a local restaurant after getting off of the flight. Luckily, the individuals were identified very quickly, and public health and enforcement officials are pursuing the matter right now. With our borders now open once again to commercial flights, I want to stress that this is not an indication that we have won the battle against COVID-19 or that we can now relax our protective measures. In fact, it's quite the contrary. As I've said before, with more freedom comes more responsibility. The measures that will keep us safe seem very simple. It can be hard to believe how important they are, but they are our best form of protection. Please wash your hands frequently. Use hand sanitizer before and after entering any store or public building. Shield our medically vulnerable, and continue to wear your mask and keep 6 feet apart if you are not wearing one. We have put in place stringent measures for incoming travelers and to ensure that we can identify any COVID cases early and isolate them immediately. However, with open borders comes the potential to import COVID-19, so we must all be diligent in our preventative measures at all times, even more now than ever. With less legal restrictions on our activities, we must still place personal restrictions on our activities. For our mental and physical health, it is important to be active and social, but we must be clear on the risks involved. To help us with this, an activity guide has been posted on the government website today, which details some activities on the high and low risk scale. For example, low risk activities include walking or biking outdoors, which can be done with friends if you are 6 feet apart. Another low-risk activity is dining outdoors, provided that tables are also 6 feet apart and diners avoid high-touch items such as menus. Low to medium-risk activities include picnicking outside with friends, so long as you keep 6 feet apart from others, keep groups small, wear masks, and don't share food or utensils. Going to the beach and swimming in a pool is also falls into the category, so long that you provide and continue to practice physical distancing from others, avoid locker rooms, and spend most of your time in motion. Medium risk activities include a children's play date outside, so long as you keep small groups and don't share food and make sure that you wear your mask. Conversely, activities that are medium to high risk include socializing outside with a large group. The more people, the more likely you may be exposed. You should physical distance and wear masks. Going to the gym is also medium to high risk activity, but there are many things that you can do and you should do to minimize the risk, which are listed on our guidance notes at our website for gyms under coronavirus.gov.bm. High-risk activities include visiting elderly parents or friends who are high risk for COVID-19. Avoid physical contact with them and meet outside if possible. Don't visit them if you have any symptoms or you have been exposed yourself or that you feel sick. This is also not a great time to start dating new people. Outdoor physical distance dates are relatively safe, but you should avoid close physical contact. Very high-risk activities include attending a big party indoors or being in a large gathering or dense crowds. Avoid these at all costs unless strictly necessary. It is more important than ever that we each play our part in keeping our community safe. It is not by luck that we have avoided community spread so far. It is through our hard work and diligent efforts to follow the government guidelines and the directions. Before closing, I want to comment briefly on the latest news that has created a lot of chatter around our island's health system. By now, the majority of Bermuda would have heard of the merger that took place between Argus Insurance and two medical practices, namely Island Health Services and the Family Practice Group. This merger within the private sector took place privately and without the knowledge of the Ministry of Health or the Bermuda Health Council, without our knowledge or our involvement. And this is not unlawful as the law currently stands. Nevertheless, it is an important development in our small health system, and so it merits comment. You would be aware, as a result of this pandemic, much of our worst fears and anxieties about our health system have become a reality. We have businesses that cannot afford health insurance, workers who are unemployed and now uninsured, families who are going without treatment, medications that are out of reach for our seniors. Argus and the medical practices took it upon themselves to try to smooth out some of these rough spots for their specific clients by investing in one another. Though that may be a benefit for their piece of the pie, its impact on the overall health system needs to be considered. We will continue to pursue a better health system that works for everyone, in good times and in bad, and will work with all individuals, businesses, and all sectors to make that a reality. Universal health coverage remains this government's goal. We will not squander the lessons that COVID-19 has taught us, that we are much better as a country when we do things in a unified manner, and will not neglect what we have lived each day for the last 4 months, which has highlighted the importance of putting the health of our residents first and foremost. Thank you, Bermuda, and be safe.
Thank you, Minister of Health. Today marks the first day of the safe opening of our airport to returning commercial traffic. We have examined every aspect of the reopening. Many Bermudians who have been stranded overseas since the start of travel restrictions will be returning home, and business and tourism visitors are expected to be amongst them. This government stance, since Bermuda was in phase 1, was that we would not open the airport until we were convinced that we had the appropriate protections in place. The equipment in place, the monitoring measures in place, and the strategy in place to keep our customs officers, airport staff, hospitality workers, and wider community safe from the coronavirus. Yesterday, the Minister of National Security led an exercise at the L.F. Wade International Airport, which walked through step by step the process to ensure that every I was dotted and every T was crossed in advance of today's arrivals. We are confident that the health and safety measures Bermuda has put in place will ensure the safety of our community. As I have said recently, Bermuda's entry requirements are among some of the toughest in the world. You should see on your screen a graphic that has been created to show those tests, the tests of those arriving in Bermuda, compared to the rest of the world or other countries in our region. A traveler that does not have a clearance will not be boarded and therefore will not come to Bermuda. All visitors coming to Bermuda will be required to be tested when they arrive, tested on day 3, tested on day 7, and tested on day 14 of their stay. The number of tests required obviously depends on the length of stay. We will ensure all customs officers, airport workers, and officials will have on appropriate PPE, and there will be physical distancing measures in place, including physical barriers. At any point, any visitor tests positive, they will be fitted with a quarantine monitoring bracelet, which will be required to isolate in their room. If they attempt to leave their room, the monitoring device will alert the authorities, who will take the necessary steps to protect our community. As we have sought to put our people back to work safely, the Minister of Tourism and Transport has been hard at work with industry stakeholders and the Bermuda Tourism Authority to ensure Bermuda is effective at getting tourists back to our shores. Minister De Silva will now provide an update. Minister?
Thank you, Premier. Good afternoon, everyone. As you know, regular commercial airline services resumed today, July 2nd, 2020, at the LF Wade International Airport. The first flight to arrive, Air Canada, touched down a few minutes after 1 o'clock today. And I'd like to echo the sentiments of Minister Wilson and commend everyone involved in making sure we were ready to welcome visitors and our returning residents back to our island home. We continue to work with the Bermuda Tourism Authority to inspire confidence in traveling again by highlighting that Bermuda is a safe and responsible jurisdiction with enhanced COVID-19 mitigation protocols in place by the Ministry of Health for both visitors and the local community. To that end, after having paused marketing since March 16th, the BTA restarted active marketing yesterday through both search engine marketing and digital placements, which include web banner advertising and social media. The BTA's marketing plan will gradually ramp up through the summer and intensify as we get closer to expected increases in airlift capacity and hotel inventory. Where to target is based on where there are flights and where there are workable flight connections. As we know, flights have been severely reduced everywhere. Because visitor volume will be lower than normal, there's also an inside-out marketing approach, where aspects of the visitor experience will be marketed to locals at the same time they're marketed to our visitors. Examples are Independent Retailer Month, that's this month, Golf Week, also happening this week and this month, Alfresco Dining Festival in September, Yacht and Catamaran Week in October, staycations as all the properties reopen, World Tourism Day in September, and Spa Month in November. All of these are in development and expected to reach finalization soon. Discussions with on-island stakeholders will continue. The Ministry is also working with the BTA to reach out to vacation rental owners, as well as working closely with hoteliers to assist with making their safety plans operational. The BTA will be collaborating with the entire tourism economy to understand who is planning to open and when, and what they will be doing to keep consumers safe. That feedback is important so that visitors will be aware when hotels will reopen and what restaurants are back in operation, as well as what experiences like tours, retailers, museums, minicar, and moped rentals will be available, making sure visitors can connect with all business in the tourism space. We are also in constant contact with the Bermuda Hotel Association, who remain committed to ensuring that the appropriate health and safety standards and COVID-19 mitigation protocols are in place at the island's hotel properties, following Ministry of Health guidelines. For example, masks will be worn by all employees in public areas, staff areas, and when working, and education on the correct use of masks will be provided as well. Hand sanitizer dispensers will be placed in key guest and employee areas, and all will be encouraged to practice good hygiene frequently and thoroughly. Signage regarding the health requirements will be put in place, and both guests and staff will have their temperatures taken when entering buildings. It is important to realize that the Bermuda Hotel Association is providing guidance on good standards for all hotels. However, each hotel brand is likely to have additional requirements that are over and above the guidelines being put in place now. Having worked hard to contain the coronavirus in Bermuda, we will work equally hard to be the destination of choice for those seeking peace of mind in a safe and relaxing locale. Finally, talks continue with the airline industry regarding airlift to Bermuda. However, I must re-emphasize that flight schedules are subject to change. Already, I can say that since last week, American Airlines has decided to reinstate its flight from Miami rather than the flight from New York, as I reported to you just a short time ago, due to start in September. The ability to overcome challenges and adapt is something Bermuda is known for, and I am certain that we will continue to prove our worth as a top-tier tourism destination. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. As we work to revive our tourism economy, it is essential that we support our small and medium-sized businesses in Bermuda. This government pledged $12 million to support our businesses through what will be a challenging period. Small and medium-sized businesses have been assisted by the efforts of the Bermuda Economic Development Corporation in the wake of this pandemic. These hard-working women and men often devote all their waking hours to making a success of their investment. Supporting them is supporting our community. I am pleased to advise that as of today, the Bermuda Economic Development Corporation has approved almost $1.5 million for 67 small and medium-sized businesses. These businesses span the entire island, and our aim continues to be to support them not just in recovery, but for their intended growth. A further 81 businesses are at various stages of the approval process, and all told, we stand to provide, thus far, over $4 million in support of small and medium-sized businesses in Bermuda. This recovery will be built on the foundation of small and medium-sized businesses who command a loyal customer base and, to a large extent, employ a number of Bermudians. Supporting them is supporting our community. For an update on the other initiatives to support our economy, the Minister of Finance will now address the country. Minister?
Thank you, Premier. Good evening. As Bermuda continues to ease restrictions related to the COVID-19 pandemic, and additional sectors of our economy are opening with Phase 4, I am pleased to provide a further update on the Ministry of Finance COVID-19 fiscal plan. Today I will cover 4 areas: an update on an unemployment benefit, Contributory Pensions Temporary Amendment Act of 2020, information on the process of taking advantage of the National Pension Scheme suspensions, and payroll tax relief for restaurants and bars. The term of the unemployment benefit has been extended for an additional 4 weeks for a total of 16 weeks. Last week, the Ministry of Finance authorized unemployment benefit payments to 6,420 people for a total of $5,518,000. We've now paid benefits to 10,100 people for a total cost of approximately $43 million. We expect further payments to continue on a bi-weekly schedule, which means another payment on Friday, July 10th. As mentioned earlier, we continue to make progress to resolve problem applications, and last week we paid 332 applicants for the first time. Approximately 4,500 persons have notified the Department of Workforce Development that they have returned to work and that they are no longer receiving unemployment benefits. Our expectation is that this number will continue to grow as Bermuda enters its second week of Phase 4 and government continues to actively explore and implement actions to get our people back to work. I want to reiterate that all individuals and companies must notify the government of your return to work to confirm your eligibility period. Please visit www.bermudajobboard.bm. Follow the link at the top of the page for COVID-19 unemployment application, then the link at the top for the Back to Work form. For those that have already done so, We thank you for your act of responsible citizenship. For those who have returned to work and have not informed us, I want to make one point very clear. If this government determines that individuals and employers are not informing the government in a timely manner of their return to work, causing the government to overpay, this government will utilize all of its powers outlined in the regulations to claw back funds that have been paid to individuals that are no longer eligible for unemployment benefits. As we continue to work together as a community to restart and rebuild our economy, it should be viewed as unacceptable and irresponsible for individuals that are back to work and no longer eligible to accept unemployment benefits. The Contributory Pension Temporary Amendment Act of 2020 came into force yesterday, July the 1st. As previously announced, this amendment allows for employees, employers, and self-employed persons to suspend payment of their social insurance contributions for the whole of the suspension period, which runs from July the 1st of 2020 to June the 30th of 2021. Guidelines, FAQs, and forms for both employees and employers are located at www.gov.bm. For any questions, please contact the Department of Social Insurance at sisuspend@gov.bm or call their hotline with any suspension-related questions at 444-2470. The National Pension Scheme Occupational Pensions Temporary Amendment Act of 2020 also came into force yesterday. This amendment allows for a suspension of employee and employer contributions for a 12-month period commencing the 1st of July of 2020 and ending on the 30th of June 2021. The process to take advantage of this concession is as follows. Once the employee and employer agree on the employee suspension, the employer should write to the plan administrator advising them of the suspension of contributions. The employer may agree with the employee suspension, but still wish to make their contributions. They may do so, and the employer must advise their plan administrator accordingly. The reporting to the plan administrator is necessary so that the employer is not reported by the administrator to the pension commission, as being delinquent. An employer's continued contribution is not treated as voluntary, and as such, they are not subject to payroll tax. If the plan is a defined benefit plan, then the employer does not have to receive the agreement of the employee to make the suspension. This is because the employer is financially responsible for making up any pension shortfalls that may result from suspending the contributions. I'd like to provide some statistics for refunds under the National Pension Scheme. For the $12,000 refund, we received a total of 6,976 applications. Of those, 4,382 have been approved, and the total value of applications approved is $49,443,629. For the 25% refunds, total applications received were 97, total approved 79, total value of applications approved $2,482,284. It is pleasing to know the recent hardship withdrawal provisions under the Act have assisted many families over the last few weeks and clearly validates the benefit of this social policy initiative. I can also advise that legislation will be tabled tomorrow, which will make additional amendments to the Act and respective regulations to increase the scope of coverage and provide additional access to plan members and former members of defined contribution plans as follows. 1, removing the requirement for a member not to be retired for those seeking a $12,000 refund. 2, removing the requirement for persons to be retired for those seeking a 25% refund. And 3, removing the requirement for persons to be retired for those seeking a small pension refund. On May 21st of 2020, government announced short-term relief from payroll tax to assist the restaurant and bar sectors. During the last quarter, ending the 30th of June 2020, payroll tax was set at a 0 rate for the restaurants and bar sectors, and these businesses ceased deducting payroll tax from employees during this period. I am pleased to advise that this concession has been extended for the next quarter, and the government is considering extending this concession further to include restaurants within hotels that are operating under the general hotel licensing regime. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister of Finance. This government is acutely aware that many in Bermuda continue to experience high levels of anxiety and depression. In a few short months, our entire way of life has been altered. We have had to adapt quickly to the changes brought about as a result of this pandemic and now have to adjust to a new normal. All of these changes have taken a physical and emotional toll. If you or a loved one have any of the following psychological or physical symptoms, know that there is help available. Please call the Emotional Wellbeing Hotline at 543-1111. Here are a few of the psychological symptoms of depression. They include continuous low mood or sadness, feeling hopeless and helpless, feeling irritable and intolerant of others, having no motivation or interest in things, and feeling anxious or feeling worried. Some physical symptoms of depression include moving or speaking more slowly than usual, changes in appetite or weight, usually decrease, but sometimes increase, lack of energy, disturbed sleep, for example, finding it difficult to fall asleep at night or waking up very early in the morning, may withdraw from being around others and socializing, and may have changes in risky behavior such as increased alcohol or substance abuse. Again, the number to call is 543-1111, and persons are there between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. There are many in Bermuda who have contributed to the successes we have had in containing the spread of COVID-19 on our shores. Many individuals, companies, and organizations have worked hard and sacrificed to get us to the point where we are able to open our borders safely and restart our economy. I must thank and highlight the local associations together with the local and international companies that donated a total of $2.7 million so the Bermuda Hospitals Boards could purchase life-saving medical equipment for people who contracted COVID-19 and were hospitalized. Amongst the list of essential equipment is an oxygenator, which is currently en route to island. On behalf of the government of the people of Bermuda, I extend a sincere thank you. I've also been made aware that there is a website which is currently being promoted on Facebook with a story and quotes attributed to me. Please note that this website is a fraud, and I urge persons do not under any circumstances send money or information to anyone online. No government minister will ever contact you on social media asking you for money. And this site, which features quotes and has given me a promotion to Prime Minister of Bermuda, asks people to invest in a Bitcoin Plus or some other type thing. Here's the truth. If you click on the site and if you enter your credit card details to make an investment in something that is not being promoted by us, you will likely never see that money again. The Bermuda Police Service has already issued a statement on this particular scam. I did check Facebook earlier today and see that it's been shared a number of times. It is false, and if you enter your money on that website or enter your credit card information, it is likely that information will be stolen and you will not see your money again. As we are now fully in phase 4, this is the last of the twice weekly government press conferences to update the country on COVID-19. We will shift to once a week for press conferences starting next week. And the next time that we will be with you in your living rooms will be next week, Thursday. Additionally, the House of Assembly will meet tomorrow to consider a number of pieces of legislation, some which were mentioned by the Minister of Finance. Please tune in to parliament.bm. You can listen on 105.1, or you can also hear the goings-on of the House of Assembly on burnews.com. Finally, as we conclude today's media briefing, I would like to extend my prayers and best wishes of Bermuda to Private Indavaya, or Davy, Williams and his family. Private Williams is recovering with our prayers, our support, and our sincere gratitude for his service. And before I close, I want to thank the ministers who have been with me at all of these press conferences. It has been an incredible amount of work. So Minister Wilson, I pay stressful tribute to you, and to Minister of National Security, Minister Wayne Keynes, who, when I said that we were moving to once a week press conferences, started seeing choral music, because it has been an incredible toll. But this has been a difficult experience for all of us, but it has been a pleasure making sure that we keep everyone informed. As we move to phase 4, we are going to adjust to our new normal, but we're going to make sure that we keep you informed fully on a weekly basis. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you and good evening. Minister Keynes, the soldier who's badly hurt at the curfew checkpoint and had surgery overseas and appears to be recovering, how has this terrible incident affected morale among soldiers?
The soldiers are resilient. They were on Monday night and Tuesday really reeling from it. This was their colleague. They watched it happen. They had the benefit of having counseling. When we went to talk with them on Tuesday, they were strong. They were committed to protecting Bermuda and will be subsequently on their post. I think whenever you go through something like this, it affects you in different ways. I believe that the morale has waned, but these are strong men and women, and they will recover from this, and they will go from strength to strength.
Thank you very much. Health Minister, you mentioned that somebody broke the quarantine today. How were they captured so quickly, or how were you notified so quickly and being able to return them to the room?
The interesting thing is that we have very vigilant Bermudians, and somebody called the call center and indicated that they saw this particular person at a local restaurant close in proximity to the airport. The person at the call center contacted me actually, and we're laughing because we're like, we should be investigators, because literally within a few moments I contacted Minister Keynes. We called 211 initially, and the restaurant did their extreme due diligence, and they did the requisite forms, so they filled out the names of the individuals. When they realized that this individual had just arrived, they made them leave, and we were able to identify the person very, very quickly because we cross-matched that with a travel authorization form. So no doubt, as we speak, the police are probably engaged in locating that person, which we have their address and contact number for.
What will be the consequence for them breaking the quarantine so quickly?
Well, there are underneath the regulation, there are provisions with respect to penalties, financial penalties. At this point, I can't say what exactly will be the consequence, but I suspect that when the police actually show up at their place of their accommodations, and we'll look at this tomorrow. I'm on my way back to the office as soon as this press meeting is over, so that we can consider what all our consequences will be, because we anticipate by then that that person would have been located by the police. So stand by.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Premier, I see you have a tracking bracelet alongside you there. Can you show that to the audience and take us through how that works, and how, I'm not sure if the person today had their tracking bracelet on already, but like...
Persons that are positive. The challenge with this person is that they had just arrived, and the requirement is that they are they are tested upon arrival, and they must stay at their place of accommodation until such time as they receive their test results.
Regarding the bracelet, these are the same bracelets which are used in Hong Kong as part of their quarantine monitoring. I can't exactly show you how it is put on, because if I put it on and I close it, that means that it activates. And once you put it on and you close it, you have to literally destroy it to take it off. So if you take it off, then the alarm goes off as well that you have messed up the quarantine. There's an app which is paired to the phone. The app is it is on the Android App Store for persons who do not have Android phones. We're going to have loaner phones that we're going to give to anyone who tests positive to make sure that we can enforce their quarantine. And what will happen is that this will be attached to the person's wrists. It will recognize the proximity of the place and where they're staying, whether it be a room or a house and or an apartment. And if they go outside of that proximity, as is done in Hong Kong, it will be the same here, is that the notification will be sent to the authorities, and the authorities can go and check in with that particular offender. So that is the way that this works, and I'm sure that the Department of Information, the Information Digital Technologies will be happy to give a demonstration at some point in time next week.
All right, thank you very much. Health Minister, on Monday at the BTA webinar, David Kendall from the Ministry of Health said between pre-testing and airport testing, they expect to catch 75% of people who have COVID from entering Bermuda and spreading it. That means that 25%, or 1 in 4 cases, will slip through. What does the most recent modeling projection tell us about how many newly imported cases we can expect?
Thank you, Don, for that question. Actually, with respect to the report of the Public Health England and the webinar that you're speaking about, just to clarify it, if persons are tested, receive 2 tests within a spacing of 5 days, then the likelihood of us capturing a positive is 76%. And with respect to the other 24%, Public Health England also indicated with respect to their modeling is that it's very difficult to ascertain how many persons will come in with COVID, because that's why we're testing. And in fact, as you've heard me speak about previously, the key is to identify early and to isolate early, which is why we have such a stringent testing regime with respect to not only local visitors, but also visitors, not only residents, but also visitors to our island. If you're staying for 14 days, you could be subjected to 5 tests. Public Health England also indicated that you have to also look at other factors, such as what is the prevalence of the rate of transmission in the country of origin in which the person is coming from, as well as what type of activity did that person participate in. For example, are they in a high-risk area with respect to their employment versus low risk? So those are all factors that come into play. But the main thing and the main point that I'd like to stress is that for a person that is tested twice within 5 days, the likelihood of us capturing them with respect to their status is 76% of capturing a positive, which is very, very high.
But to my question, what percent, you mentioned 24% would slip through, so according to the modeling, based on the number of tourists we expect over the next 3 months, how many people can we expect will get through and then will get caught on the 3-day test?
Right, but there's no modeling that could address that, because we don't know what the parameters are. We don't know how many people are coming in every day. We don't know what type of risk factors exist with respect to what country they've come from, and so far as like the rate of transmission. We don't know whether or not they work in a high risk area, such as a frontline medical personnel versus somebody that's a newscaster. So those factors, there's so many factors that come into play. What is important is to note that we are doing all the mitigants and applying all the mitigants, and we are taking steps to identify early and isolate early.
The Minister of Health has said that with that spread, which has come from Public Health England, that if you have those 2 tests within 5 days of each other, then you catch 76% of the capture of the cases. But when that expands to 10 days, it goes up to 97%. Well, guess what? We're not just doing 2 tests in 10 days. We're doing a lot of tests. So we're going to expect, and that's the reason why we have this very rigorous testing regime, as the slides have indicated, which the viewers have seen, is more rigorous than anywhere on the planet. And we're doing it because we want to make sure that we protect our community while we open our airport to commercial traffic. And so the same statistics, people are focusing on the 2 tests spread apart and the 76%. But I think it's also important for us to note and to recognize that the longer that period goes, the higher you get insofar as catching those cases. But for us, we're testing on arrival, on day 3, on day 7, and on day 14. So that means that we are not going to escape the dragnet.
Thank you. You mentioned there was a problem with the tourist authorization form. How many people on the flight today did not complete that form?
When I say that there was a problem with the authorization form, what I'm referring to specifically is that it was up on Wednesday, and for example, if you tried to log in from, you had to log in from a desktop. So if you were trying to utilize a telephone or a tablet, you were unable to do so. There was also an issue that we identified that you needed to have Google Chrome. There were only certain search engines that would allow you to log on. That was rectified by the next day. Insofar as data from how many people have completed the travel authorization, we are still collecting that data, and I can provide that to you in writing. The flight only landed about 6 hours ago, so we're measuring the manifest with those persons that completed the travel authorization, so I will supply that information to you in writing.
Good evening, Minister Dickinson. What is your plan for unemployment benefit as it ends? Will it be extended, or will there be another program?
We are discussing what happens after 16 weeks, and once we've made a decision on that, we'll advise folks accordingly.
Premier, you may have mentioned just now, this question's for you, you may have mentioned just now about states of depression, et cetera, et cetera. What would you say to that individual, those people that's not going to have work, not going to be able to feed their families, with overwhelming amount of bills? Who do they call? The depression hotline?
If persons are experiencing challenges with their emotional and mental well-being, then absolutely that's the place to call. And I think it's very important that persons who are experiencing those challenges to go ahead and to make those calls. Absolutely. That would be the place where that support is there for emotional and emotional well-being. We recognize that during a crisis like this, there could be persons that are dealing with anxiety, persons that are dealing with depression, persons that are feeling, feeling trapped, and it's certainly very important that we take care of not only our physical health, but our mental health, and I'm very pleased that that service is there.
Are you aware, I'm not sure of yourself or the Minister of Tourism, are you aware today, I got TNN understands that employers and employees at Crow Beach and Tennis Club issued redundancy notification to their staff starting next month. Have you received that information?
I haven't, no.
Premier?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay. Minister Keynes, this one is for you. I'm understanding that some information, a significant change in, a significant update and progress on the major development in the Chevelle Dylan Burgess investigation has arisen. Can you update us in any way on this?
No, sir.
How many questions I have left? 2, thank you. When will family members allowed to visit their loved ones in senior homes? Minister of Health, some of these individuals, matter of fact, most of these individuals have not seen their family members for over 4 months. When will this
Thank you for that question. It's not actually inaccurate. I think it's inaccurate to say that most have not seen their family members, because what most of the homes have done, and actually there were a number of philanthropic agencies that have provided
Zoom, but what about physical contact?
Okay, well, let me finish, because Zoom, though it's not physical contact, that stresses the point that it's inaccurate to say that they've not seen their family members. If you're referring to physical contact, as I spoke of last week when you asked the question, it is a very highly vulnerable, medically vulnerable population, our seniors. And the reality is that we have to take steps to ensure that we protect them as best as possible. And though I appreciate that there are family members that are desirous of seeing their loved ones, we also have to be recognizing that the state of play and where we are. We've just opened our borders today. One of the lag measures that we've spoken about, lean lag measures here over and over again, and one of the lag measures that speaks to opening up such areas of vulnerability such as seniors' homes relates specifically to when you open your airport. So if we're opening our airport today, the lag measure is speaking about perhaps waiting at least 28 days. But these are discussions that we're having at the Ministry of Health, because we do recognize the importance of physically visiting loved ones, but we also recognize the importance of protecting our loved ones as well. So we are having those discussions, and there are factors at play, as I've spoken about before, insofar as the spread and the potential devastation it could cause on our loved ones, particularly in those particular areas of vulnerability.
My last question. You may have mentioned earlier about the merger between Island Health and August. I've understood through an interview I've had with the CEO of August today, and she stated that this merger was in the works for the last 2 years. You stated that your ministry was unaware of this. Do you not think that this can possibly be a win-win for insurance and healthcare providers, bringing the cost of insurance and healthcare down?
I think at this point it's really too early for me to comment any further than what I spoke about in the statement. I literally found out on Tuesday evening whilst in cabinet, so I didn't even have an opportunity to fully absorb the content of the email correspondence that I received because I was in cabinet. I spent all of yesterday pretty much at the airport and dealing with the logistics with respect to ensuring that all the protocols, as particularly as it related to the health testing and so forth, were conducted properly yesterday. I will certainly turn my mind to it tomorrow in between House sessions.
Will you be having contact with these individuals,
With
these
Argus,
parties
yes,
involved?
of course.
Yes?
Yes.
Thank you much.
Trevor? Because I think it's interesting, and I think it's worth noting that one of the doctors involved in this acquisition said at a public meeting that the government's health reforms were coming between him and his money, and that was the reason that he came to Bermuda. And so given that statement, I think that that should tell us what this is all about.
What would you say, making money? That's what you're saying? My supplementary?
I think that that should tell us what this is all about.
Good evening, panel. Minister Keynes, let me start with you because traditionally we hear questions by a certain media. You would neither confirm or deny, and the next day it's a lead story. Last week, Trevor Lindsay asked you about cadaver dogs. You could neither confirm or deny. Next day it came out.
Firstly, I could have confirmed or denied. I chose not to at the time because it was not appropriate at the time I was asked to proffer the response.
Okay, but as minister, the next day the information came out without you. So I'm asking you tonight.
It came out from official channels the day before. If I'm asked a question and it has gone through the necessary channels and it is appropriate to share with the public, I will do so. If I receive information and it's not appropriate to do so, I will wait until the appropriate time to share it with members of the public.
So can we expect tomorrow the major development in the Cheval Dillon Burgess case will be in the other media? Because you can't...
I can simply say that I have been asked the question tonight. It would not be appropriate to proffer a response about the investigation at this point. If tomorrow the circumstances changed, then we can proffer the answer to the people of Bermuda at the appropriate time.
Can you at least confirm that there is a major development
I will
tonight?
not confirm that, no.
Thank you, Minister.
You're welcome, Madam.
Finance Minister, you stated in your statement that there were 332 recipients of the unemployment benefit who are receiving it for the first time. Do I understand that means since whenever it came into effect, this is the first time? And can you explain why it took so long?
It could mean from the beginning of the application process, or it could mean whenever they submitted their applications. It is no secret over the course of these press conferences and the duration of the unemployment benefit that we have discussed the issue of having challenges with respect to certain applications. Sometimes it's instances of people giving us incorrect information with respect to their bank account numbers, their email addresses, their salaries, etc. The list of reasons why can be any of a number of different reasons. And so, inasmuch as we have identified those persons, we've tried to reach out to them, call them, get the information, and correct the issue.
Are you in a position at this point to say whether this unemployment benefit will be carried past July 25th?
I can refer you to an answer that I gave to your colleague earlier that we're assessing, and we will update the public in due course.
Premier Bart, with regards to your opening statement on the hoopla regarding Dr. Weldon, for those who don't know what it's about, can you expand? Clearly, I missed something.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. I actually missed it as well, and it wasn't until I got my draft remarks and I had taken a look and I had to follow up and see exactly what was taking place, and it was particularly upsetting. From that perspective, I think that it's the question of disparaging. And so when people are saying, oh, it's suspicious that there's so many negative test results of the MDL, they're not doing something right, oh, they're doing things too quickly, oh, all the rest. It's just this regular pattern of persons who wish to disparage, I would say, young Bermudian who has put their life on hold to come back and to serve this country. And I think that what was most interesting, as I had mentioned in my remarks, is that in the same commentary which was being shared on Facebook and WhatsApp, the same commentary was criticizing the pooling method of which MDL was using. And I remember when Dr. Weldon had discussed this with me, it was a method that was being used in Germany when she had spoken to her contacts at a company because she is a fellow of the Royal Institute of Microbiology. She teaches, lectures. She is asked to speak on gene sequencing throughout the world. And so she has a large number of contacts in this arena. And so she had brought this to us, and she said that this is a way that we can preserve our testing supplies longer and also test more persons more quickly. And that is something that she put in place. She made sure everything was verified and validated through that process. And so to read people criticizing that is amusing to me when the other night I was watching U.S. News and they were talking about how they're going to look at introducing pooling in order to speed up the testing which is taking place inside of the United States of America. And this is something that we had in place 10 weeks ago. So I think that people will criticize for whatever reason they want to criticize, but it's, I think, nonsensical to say that because we have so many negative test results that somehow, some way, something is not going right. That is ridiculous. We are doing it right, we're doing it correct, and what that is a result of is that we have done a good job in this country of making sure that we limit the spread of this virus. And I think that's something that should be applauded, and we must spend time building people up instead of tearing them down.
And I guess my final question is twofold. I've heard you say that you're not prepared to write off this tourism season. I see the Minister of Tourism is here. We know about the cruise ships and so forth. We know that hotels are not going to be filled overnight. We've heard extensively about how we're handling the here and now, but the dark days ahead have been likened to the Great Depression. I think it's clear that hotels are not going to be full. We know that they weren't full before COVID. When you say that we've got a few short months towards adjusting to the new normal in terms of crime, in light of the fact that a lot of what's happening is happening outside of curfew and lockdown hours, in light of the fact that there are some hotel workers who won't be back to work for the rest of the year, what does that new normal look like? And I'm not trying to get you to predict gloom and doom, but you know what's coming. And a sidebar to the finance minister, I don't know if you saw Charles Richardson's bid, but the big question is, where is this recovery money coming from? I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Richardson is a constituent of mine, and I actually reached out to him and thanked him for, I think, what it was a thoughtful article, because he mentioned many things in there about persons making sure that they are being self-reliant, being creative, supporting each other, and I think that is a necessary community spirit which we have to embody as Bermudians. I did say that I was not prepared to write off the tourism season, when there are many persons who said that we won't have visitors, we won't have hotels, we won't have any persons coming this year. And we have done the work which was necessary in order to get us to a place where we will have visitors that will be bringing money and supporting jobs here. And we have to do more to make sure that that can happen. But we're going to do what is necessary to keep our country safe. What does the future hold? We have made absolutely no mistake that what the future holds is that this is going to be a difficult situation going forward. There is absolutely no question about that, and at no point in time have we made any bones about that. What the Minister of Finance has done, however, is that he has been incredibly creative. We were quick to respond to make sure that we laid out an unemployment benefit for those persons who were not working, who were able to get work. We have seen that the injection of the withdrawal of pension funds has injected another $50 million into the economy, with possibly more to come. There are more measures of which are being considered. And so from that perspective, what I would say the future holds, the future is what we make of it as a country. The future is how we can band together to recognize that it does not make any sense tearing each other down, and we have to work together to make sure that as a country we can get through this. So whether it's with the hour-and-a-half meeting that I had yesterday with the Leader of the Opposition, discussing how we're going to go forward with things, or whether it is the constant work of which we do with our private sector partners, with our community partners, and working together in a way which is necessary, that's the only way that this country is going to succeed. So from that perspective, I would say the future will hold if we do everything correct. Minister Dickinson?
I would just say this, Mr. Wilson, the source of the money is coming from multiple sources. The Premier articulated a number from domestic in terms of pensions, social insurance, pension suspensions. Those are all intended to kind of save money and put more money into people's pockets. We're looking also for foreign direct investment, and we also will go to the capital markets to borrow some money. So through a combination of money on island, new money coming in, and borrowed funds, planning on using those to kind of help us emerge from this on the other side in a better place.
I just wanted to mention a couple of things, because you had asked, you know, or made the statement with regard to the Premier's statement a couple of weeks ago about, you know, he hasn't lost the tourism season. You'll know that last week Rosewood announced that they would be opening this month, and they are. Lauren never closed. We have Pompano up in the West End are looking at doing something a little significant with regard to doing things differently, and I expect them to announce that soon. Cocoa Reef and Newstead have both said that they're going to open up at the end of this month. Today we had 44 visitors come in from Canada. The Delta flight that's coming in on the 6th is full, and I've told that the 2 or 3 flights thereafter are also full. We've had people landing at the private jet facility daily for the last week and a half in significant numbers, coming down for the fishing tournaments that we're going to hold over the next couple of weeks. So in tourism, as we look at some of the work that the BT are doing under the stewardship of interim CEO Glenn Jones, as I mentioned today, they started their marketing in a few different areas, and as the airwaves open up and the airlines start flying, they'll do some more pinpoint marketing. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that, you know, we will have some tourism activity in the next few weeks and months.
Good afternoon, everyone. Owen Johnson Barnes, Rural Gazette. First of all, we just had our first commercial flight back, and we had someone who breached the regulations. Does that set sort of a bad precedent? Does that make you concerned about the future when more flights are coming in?
Thank you, Owen. I am concerned because it reflects a degree of insensitivity to the importance the important role that Bermuda is playing with respect to trying to ensure as best as possible that we take the necessary precautions to minimize the impact of COVID. As I stated, we have 2 cases right now in Bermuda, and I anticipate one of them is hospitalized, and we're expecting good results and a discharge very soon. However, the actions of this one particular individual are unquestionably it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate that they would think that, notwithstanding the information that they're provided when they come through the airport, as well as when they're tested and instructed verbally and in writing that they must quarantine until they receive their results. And we've indicated that the results on the outside would be 24 hours if they, depending on the time of their arrival. In fact, when we went through the testing, the sample test, the run through yesterday, certain persons, the one last person that exited and was tested, and she had 2 children with her, so she probably left about maybe 2:30, 3 o'clock, and she had had her results by midnight. So, I mean, the result, it was unreasonable for them not to take the necessary precautions and the requirements of Bermuda seriously. So it is very unfortunate. I'm hopeful that this is not an omen of things to come, but we do recognize that, you know, persons will probably attempt to break the system, but we do have Bermudians that are obviously going to be very cognizant of that, and no doubt call the COVID hotline and inform us of these particular infractions. Are we going to see more infractions? Yes, if realistically we will. However, on the other side, because of the testing that we've implemented and the stringent testing on such a regular occurrence, as I've said, it's important to identify and isolate, and that's what we'll do. But yes, there will probably be more infractions, but I'm comfortable that through the testing mechanisms that we're implementing, as well as isolation and the continuation of the public health monitoring, that we'll be able to minimize any impact that occurs in Bermuda with respect to opening up our gates of travel.
Now, as you mentioned, we have 2 remaining active cases, and we haven't had a new case in almost 2 weeks. So obviously, I think most of the island is hoping that that number drops to 0 soon. But are you concerned that when that number does hit 0, people are going to relax and feel the need to lose the masks and hold a street party?
I think it's really important that we continue our messaging. The reality is that we're at the place that we are simply because Bermudians have been largely compliant with respect to applying the mitigants. We have, you would have heard me speak of last week, indicated that there has been observances of reduction in the mask wearing as we've seen previously. However, we continue to forge ahead and continue to drive home the importance and the messaging. It does sound like a broken record sometimes, but we would not be at the state that we are in. We would not have advanced to phase 4 as quickly as we did had it not been for the fact that our real-time number was below 1, simply because of the way that Bermuda operated with respect to adhering to the mitigants, as well as the quick action that we took as a government concerning the closure of our borders, moving quickly to the emergency powers, the shelter in place, et cetera. So we've done some really, really drastic steps, but those drastic steps were called for because of our circumstances, and look where we are and look at the results that we've that we're benefited from with respect to having 2 positive cases. That's a great result.
Now, with the recent introduction of the travel authorization process came a $75 of testing.
Yes.
Now, we have heard some complaints from locals who don't feel that they should have to pay the $75 fee. We've also heard complaints from parents who their children have flown in who are not eligible to be tested because they are under the age of 10, and yet they still carry that $75 fee. What would you like to say to them?
Actually, I don't think that's exactly correct. For the children, the fee is $30. The $75 fee relates specifically to adults. And insofar as the fee is being applied to locals and residents, it's simply a cost of travel these days. I mean, you could be going into some of the countries in Far East and be charged $3,000. So the reality is, it is a fee that's associated with the cost for testing. Every local that arrives in Bermuda will be tested upon arrival, then again at day 3, 4 days thereafter, which is day 7, and then day 14. So it's the cost of effectively keeping our island safe. It's a small price to pay for safety.
Minister De Silva, we have had some communications with our readers who are asking when full bus service will resume. Individuals who live in the middle of the route who find that by the time the bus reaches them, it already has its 17 passengers.
Well, we have heard that, and what you'll find is that we can only adjust the schedule as things unfold. What we have done is had some follow-up sweeper buses coming, so that again is like everything else. It's like this revolving door, and we have to go by experiences. So as we come out of phase 4, and the health minister, we get our results. It might be phase 5, it might be phase, but the thing is, we will not jeopardize safety of our people for any reason. And if we have to continue doing what we're doing for an extended period of time, we'll do that.
Mr. Dickinson. We have heard a lot in recent weeks about hotels having a difficult time and concerned that staying open will cost them more.
Some relaxation of taxes, but I'm not going to put the cart before the horse on this one.
Mr. Premier, flights to the UK are scheduled to begin fairly soon, and from there, possibly Europe. I was wondering what discussions there had been with UK regarding possible air bridges and the need for people to quarantine once they arrive in the UK.
There has been communication. I think I might have indicated at a previous press conference. We're not entirely certain what decision may be made by the United Kingdom government. The press reports are that they'll be making a decision based on required quarantine depending on the places of where people are coming from and whether or not they have managed to keep the disease or virus under control on their shores. And I think it is without question that Bermuda, having been upgraded to only sporadic cases by the World Health Organization, the fact that we have only 2 active cases, the fact that we are continuing to test and test aggressively, 273 results being reported today when the models say that we only really need to have 60 tests a day to keep up with that schedule, means that we are not playing around when it comes to this. And so I would expect that that Bermuda's hard work would be recognized by the United Kingdom, and for travelers that may come from the United Kingdom who want to come to Bermuda and want to be in a safe environment, to make sure they're tested so they can enjoy their time in the safe Bermuda and return back to their place of residence, will not have to quarantine for 14 days. But I'm not going to prejudge the decision of the United Kingdom government. All I can say is I can think of few better examples of countries that have managed an outbreak this well and made sure that their country has remained safe and is a safe place for people to live and a safe place for people to visit.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I want to thank everyone for their attention. Reminder to tune into the House of Assembly tomorrow, parliament.bm, 105.1, or burnnews.com. We will see you again next week. As I said, we're going to be moving to once-a-week press conferences. It's been a pleasure to see you as often as we've been able to see you, but we are looking forward to continuing our journey through Phase 4 and continuing to keep this country safe. Thank you for your continued support, and I hope that everyone has a blessed and a safe weekend. Thank you, Bermuda, and good night.
This is a message from the government of Bermuda.
There's a new generation of criminals who are targeting our seniors online. I've heard tragic stories about persons who sent money overseas to people who are pretending to be me. Please know that no government minister or anyone from the government will ask you to send money via Facebook or Instagram. If this happens, please report the profile and visit www.cybertips.bm for more information on how to keep yourself safe.
This is a message from the government of Bermuda.
Healthy people and healthy communities.
Oh man, no lights? Yo, it's a good thing I have this emergency kit. Got a flashlight.
Yeah?
Radio.
Yeah?
Water.
Yeah, whatever, man.
Non-perishable goods. A bucket, rope.
Whatever.
I even got batteries for the kids' games. Yo, I'm glad I planned ahead. How about you?
Yeah, man. I can stay here.
This message is brought to you by the Department of Health.
Didn't fill it all in. And